On the show today, we've got an exclusive drive of the Mercedes C43 Coupe. Ford Endeavour has finally got a facelift, and we ride the two new Benellis in the Adventure Tourer category. Hi, welcome to Overdrive. You're watching the show with me, Sohini Dutt. Now, when the C-Class lineup was given a facelift last year, we were the first ones who mentioned that the C43 Coupe made a lot more sense for the Indian market rather than the C43 sedan. Looks like Mercedes-Benz has listened to us, which is why we're the first one who got a chance to drive the new C43 Coupe. Let's take a look.
Red, the color of love. It's Valentine's Day today. I hope you guys are having a good time. I'm certainly having a great time since morning. I'm feeling quite pampered. Not pampered boyfriend, pampered journalist. Mercedes-Benz has sent me this beautiful AMG. And the last time I met the C43, it was dressed in black and we were in Germany. I'd mentioned that it would look so much hotter in red. And I was right. Boy, she does look good in red. Even in the dusty morning of a drying landscape, she stands out like a prom queen. When she arrived, she made my neighbor's C-Class sedan look 15 years older. And unlike my neighbor's C-Class sedan, this one is not into sit-down dinners. She is more of a party animal by the night and a sun chaser by the day. And she has got so good at her game. When the C43 arrived on the scene a couple of years ago, she showed promise, but didn't quite cut it. Her sedan body made her look elegant, much like her mother, but many hoped she would look sensual instead, like her elder sister, the C63 AMG. She didn't sing as well either, but in her new avatar, all that has changed. Her facelift looks great, and the sleek coupe form evokes emotions on first sight. Let's face it, the sound of the drivetrain is a much bigger deal than the size of the air dams. It can make or break the deal, and who knows that better than the C43? This one fixes that. It evokes the right kind of emotions. It can sing when you want it to, scream if you want it to. And that's the point of an AMG. And this one nails it. Yes, it's nothing like the snarl of the C63, but its raspy tone is enough to make my neighbors hate and envy me at the same time. The C43's ability to sing in a higher pitch now, and melodiously at that, establishes her into the fraternity of her celebrated siblings from Afaltabak. She gets that validation by finally getting large AMG badges inside the cabin as well. The steering is just perfect. It's a flat bottom steering wheel that you would expect from a car with an AMG badge, but unlike the C43 sedan from before, this one finally has the AMG lettering on it, so it does make you feel good about the investment that you've made. It's also designed quite perfectly. You're always in that 9 and 3 position, perfect for driving around twisties, perfect for driving in all sorts of conditions. It still uses a 3-litre V6 engine, the same one that AMG and Mercedes have started putting in all their mass market sports cars. But it now puts out 390 PS of power, which is good news. It takes you that much closer to the hardcore sports car territory. Now that also means that you have better power on tap, and ensuring that is a retuned 9-speed gearbox. Same gearbox as before, but it feels a little more sprightlier. The shift times have reduced, and that makes sure that whether you're out on the racetrack or driving around twisties, you always have power on tap. Nothing in here feels lethargic. The rear-biased performance all-wheel drive system and the stiff suspension setup, as before, give the C43 excellent driving dynamics too. She does throw tantrums when the going gets rough, but around the mountain roads, she is focused and how. And that is how I like her. In fact, that is why I like her a lot more now. In the past that I had mentioned that the C43 sedan, despite being powerful and despite being a good foretaste of what the legend of the C63 is all about, there's something missing about it. The coupe fixes that. With all its little enhancements, it gets everything right, and in doing so, it also develops a character for itself. A character that makes this car special enough to be taken home.
Well, you can check out this exclusive story on our YouTube channel as well. Time for us to take our first break here on the show, but come right back because on the other side we'll show you the 2019 Ford Endeavour. Welcome back. You're watching Overdrive, one of our favorite 7-seater SUVs. The Ford Endeavour has been given an update for 2019, and while the changes aren't too many, the few changes that the car has been given make it extremely good to live with on a daily basis. Now, you already know how it feels like to drive in the city. So now we've decided to take it off-road, especially on sand.
Behind me is the new for 2019 Ford Endeavour. And I know what you're thinking, it looks a lot like the Ford Endeavour that's already in the market. But they have incorporated a few changes, well, cosmetically very minor, but there are a few more changes around the car in the lineup in the whole scheme of things. And these are changes that the customers have been asking for. So we're in Jaisalmer to drive it. Now, we know what the 3.2 6-speed automatic already drives like. That's their most popular model. So maybe we're not going to focus on that. Maybe we've got bigger things planned for the Ford Endeavour.
In case you were wondering just what has changed, the 2-power grille is slimmer, the front skid plate covers more of the bumper, the wheels are new, and its diffused silver paint job will remind us of the desert long after we leave Rajasthan.
So the biggest change in the new Ford Endeavour is one that you can't even see. The top spec Titanium Plus variant now gets 7 airbags as standard, and the rest of the range gets 6, and that's because they've trimmed their range to include only the Titanium and Titanium Plus variants, basically their top selling models. Other than that, there are small changes like true keyless entry and push button start, and these are obviously things that Ford customers have asked for. And well, your prayers have been answered, the new Endeavour gets them. There's also a redistribution of USB ports in the cabin, a new gear lever, and everything's as comfortable and as plush as you remember it being.
The changes, though minor, are pretty much in line with what we thought would make the Endeavour just that much closer to perfect. And the new black and beige interiors do make the smallest difference towards keeping things fresh. Another addition that improves the livability of the Endeavour is the hands-free boot, which only takes a swipe with your foot to open. In terms of mechanicals, nothing has changed, though Ford will reintroduce the 6-speed manual for the 2.2-litre engine apart from the 6-speed automatic.
Now, the only reason we're talking about how the Ford Endeavour facelift drives, even though it's not got anything changed mechanically, is because it just drives so well. We're driving the 3.2, it's also available with a 2.2. This one is mated to a 6-speed automatic, it's a torque converter, and it does get a little noisy at times. Sometimes it's just a little reluctant to shift like right now, but that's okay, just put it into manual mode, select the next cog, and you're good to go. And go you will. It's got 470 Newton meters of torque and just under 200 PS of power. And that's quite something to move even this behemoth. So while the design for the wheels has changed, the size hasn't. So ride quality isn't affected and it remains just how we remember it, which is very, very good. You do get a little bit of a bobbing action on uneven roads, and even though Rajasthan roads are very close to perfect, they're not perfectly surfaced with the merciless sun beating down on them. The tar has got a little wavy, and that's something that's exacerbated by a ladder frame SUV like the Endeavour. But in terms of overall comfort, there's nothing really that comes close to something like the Endeavour.
Of course, driving the Endeavour on the road wasn't the real reason we were in Jaisalmer. After all, it is home to the famous Sam sand dunes, and that's exactly where we were headed. Driving on sand takes everything you know about driving on the road and throws it out the window. So we got Arvind Balan, rally driver and our instructor for the day, to give us a brief.
Whenever we are entering the sandy area, first we should always, deflate our tires to almost half of the recommended tire pressure. This will help us having more grip and less digging in the sand. Next important thing is that whenever you are driving in sand, momentum is very important. You should try and keep a constant roll of tire. If we are moving, then car should not be going too fast. Correct. Or car should not be braking.
The Endeavour has all-time all-wheel drive, which can send 100% of the power to just a single wheel, the wheel which has traction. This can help you get out of most sticky situations on the road and off of it. But in the desert, the Endeavour's terrain management system comes into its own.
Best part about this car is that when it is in sand mode, the wheel spinning becomes more aggressive. The car starts throwing more power in the wheels, and at the same time the accelerator becomes more sensitive. Right. So this happens car in moving forward with even a less favorable conditions. Right. Then we also, while driving in sand mode, if we close the ESC, so that helps us in keeping the car in perfect running, continuous running position in sand, because ESC usually breaks the car if it identifies wheel spinning. Correct. But here we need more aggressive wheel spinning. Correct. So if we make the ESC off, then it won't break. Correct. So once we put the sand mode in this, and then the 3.2 liter engine with its 470 Nm torque power.
That's where the power comes.
Yeah. So it takes out the car from anywhere.
The trick up the Endeavour sleeve is its electronically actuated 4x4 low range and rear differential lock. It effectively lowers the gearing and multiplies the torque available at the wheels, and you can then choose to further beat the sand into submission by locking the rear axle, so that the rear wheels can't spin independent of each other, thus wasting precious energy.
And you have to basically understand the sand patch you are facing. Correct. And especially while going uphill in sand, you cannot press accelerator too much. It will immediately take the car.
So I've always heard about building momentum and keeping momentum to traverse sand dunes.
Yes.
How important is momentum? I mean, in a car like this where you have so much torque.
So in car like this where we have so much torque, I would say, I have also, whenever we have been driving in sand, we have always focused a lot on momentum. But when we talk about momentum, not necessarily the momentum is, the top speed. The momentum is not about top speed. Momentum is about the constant rolling of the tires. So with a car like this much torque, in probably other cars you need a lot of speed also, which will break your car because the car will jump here and there. But in this car,
quite destructive.
Yeah, quite destructible. But in this car, momentum just means a constant roll of tire. It can be slow speed also.
Since the Endeavour's got so much capability built right in, the limiting factor really was our ability to read the surface, especially when it was constantly changing with the wind. We were told that the difference between off-roading and dune bashing is that if you can't make it up an obstacle in the sand, it's only because you're stuck and there's no second chances. Well, we think the Endeavour has a little something to say about that.
But before we head into our final break here on the show, let's check out what's making news in the world of auto and also check out the servo tip of the week.
Remember the 45X concept from the 2018 Auto Expo, the premium hatchback concept from Tata? Well, it is going into production this year itself, and Tata has now revealed the name of the upcoming car. It's called the Altroz. Now, Tata's fascination with birds continues. This name is inspired from the bird albatross. Now, the word albatross can also be used metaphorically to show the sign or state of burden, a psychological burden. And the albatross could actually become that for its competitors. It aims to trump its competition with its styling, with its agility, with its performance. Its competition includes cars like the Baleno, the Jazz, the Elite i20. The styling comes from the Impact 2.0 design language that has been established by cars like the Tata Nexon, the Tata Harrier. So you can expect to see sharp lines like you see on the 45 concept itself, and there'll be some signature bits like that black applique on the tailgate, floating effect for the tail lights, a roof spoiler, sharp lighting elements. All of that will be there on the production version as well. In fact, the production version is expected to be unveiled closer to the Geneva Motor Show that happens in March 2019. And the car will actually enter production as early as mid-2019. That is where the commercial launch is supposed to happen as well. Powering the Altroz will be engine options familiar with the other cars from the Tata lineup, so we are expecting a 1.2-litre petrol and a 1.5-litre diesel engine. However, Tata is also touting the ability of the Albatross bird to fly for thousands of miles without much effort. So I won't be surprised if there's a hybrid drivetrain in that lineup as well. The Altroz will be based on Tata's modular platform, which also means that it is likely that there will be other variants, other body styles with a similar configuration that will spawn out of this platform. We expect the Altroz, the premium hatchback, to be priced between 5.5 lakh rupees to 9.5 lakh. I already mentioned the competition is the Honda Jazz, the Suzuki Baleno, the Hyundai Elite i20, and even the Volkswagen Polo to an extent. So we expect this car to be launched by the festive season. So we are looking at between August to November. And the bookings should open a little before that because mid-2019 is what Tata is hinting as the commercial launch for this car.
As a driver, it's super important for you to know where the blind spots are on your own vehicle as well as other drivers' vehicles. Before driving on highways, ensure you set your side mirrors out 15 degrees on either side. When changing lanes or merging, you should switch on your indicator, signaling your move to the traffic behind you. Finally, you should do a quick over-the-shoulder check before a lane change or merging maneuver. You can also install blind spot detection system in the car to avoid any further accidents. Well, I guess that's been enough of the four-wheeler action on the show. Come right back after this break. We'll get you the new Benelli motorcycles which have entered the Adventure Tourer category. Welcome back, you're watching Overdrive. Now, the middleweight adventure tourer category has been seeing a lot of attention in the Indian market, and the latest entrant here is the Benelli with not just one but two motorcycles, the TRK 502 and the TRK 502X. Now, while the former, of course, is road biased, the 502X promises off-road rideability. We send Rishabh Bhaskar to tell you more.
Adventure Tourers. If there was a genre of motorcycles that made absolute sense for India, Adventure Tourers would be it. They are quick, comfortable, and can handle the worst of Indian roads. Which is why Benelli, a manufacturer that's making a comeback in India, has decided to launch two Adventure Tourers, the TRK 502 and the 502X. Why two Adventure Tourers? Because Benelli is aiming for two kinds of buyers. One who is looking for a fast and comfortable hybrid machine, and one who is looking to explore what lies beyond tarmac. So while these motorcycles share the same chassis, styling cues and other components, they differ in the type of wheels, suspension travel and other bits. The 502X is designed to tackle paved highways as well as trails, which explains the long travel suspension, higher ground clearance at 220 mm, tubeless wire spoke wheels, and an exhaust can mounted as high as the rear subframe. Right, so both the TRK 502 and the 502X have a really comfortable riding position. The seat is wide and flat, but narrow towards the fuel tanks. You can get your feet down easily. That said, it's a little harder on the 502X. That's because of the seat height, which is at 840 mm. Now that's quite high for an average Indian. The 502 is the road-focused TRK, evident by the 17-inch alloy wheels, underslung exhaust, lower ground clearance, and radially mounted brakes.
Unlike the TRK 502X, the 502 has a lower seat height at 800 mm. Now that allows me to keep my feet down firmly and flat.
The large dimensions, 20-litre fuel tank, adventure bike correct beak, and tall windscreen lend the TRK's imposing presence, an important value add for big bike shoppers. The quality of paint as well as fit and finish is good, except for the switches that could have been finished better. But more importantly, the shape of the tank makes it difficult to grab onto it while standing on the pegs and riding. It's a critical design flaw and surely a game that Form 1 over function. Also, the windscreen is not adjustable, a glaring issue in an adventure bike. But overall, the TRKs look good and purposeful. Both motorcycles employ a 500cc liquid-cooled parallel to an engine that develops 47.5 PS and 46 Nm of torque. On paper, that may not seem enough, considering these bikes weigh over 200 kgs. But in the real world, they don't feel underpowered. Power delivery is linear, and the bike is quick to get up to 100 to 120 kmph, which is a good highway cruising speed. That said, the motor is buzzy up to 110 kmph, and you do feel mild vibrations in the pegs, tank, and handlebar. Benelli has tried to dampen this by using thick rubber on the foot pegs and around the handlebar. The motor has a tractable nature, and that should be pretty good for the city as well as on the highway. The TRK 502 has a rather stiff suspension setup, which means at low speeds, over potholes, the jolts are transmitted to the rider. But over the same kind of roads, if you ride at say 5 or 10 kmph faster, the ride smoothens out. The trade-off to the stiff setup is the planted and confidence-inspiring handling. And around Chikmagalur's beautiful mountain roads, the 502 impressed with the way it flowed from corner to corner. The only thing to look out for is the top-heavy feeling, especially with a full tank of fuel. But spend some time with the 502, trust the suspension and the Pirelli tires, and the bike will surprise you with its handling. But what if you want to venture off-road? It's the 502X that impresses with its depth of abilities. The long travel suspension, Metzela Tourance tires, and higher ground clearance allow you to wander down trails without worrying. And the X is built strong enough to handle jumps as well. At the end of a long day of trail bashing, there were no rattles or loose panels. The only issue I found is with the weight. It makes it a tad difficult to back it up, especially while executing a tight U-turn on a narrow trail. And if you were to drop it, it'll take more than a pair of hands to lift it up. Out on the highway, the Supple Ride is welcome, especially over a long distance. And the grip levels offered by the tires on tarmac is also pretty good. The brakes on the TRK 502 have a really strong bite, but lack progression. The 502X's axially mounted calipers also offer good stopping power. But the best thing is, ABS is switchable on both bikes, which means it's really easy to slide the bike around.
The Benelli TRK 502, now that's a proper road-focused touring machine. The seating position is really comfortable. The engine has got adequate power. There's a very faint buzz in the pegs and in the bars and around the tank, but you can live with it. But the 502 is properly road-focused and a motorcycle that you'd want to do long distances on, long highway cruises on. It will manage a little bit of off-road. The only chink in the armor, I would say, is the stiff suspension. So I would say stick to the road if you want to ride the 502. Coming to the 502X now, I think that is a motorcycle that really holds a lot of promise. First of all, the 502 is priced at 5 lakhs, and for 40,000 rupees more you get the TRK 502X, and that's a lot more fun off-road. Of course, you have the advantage of a higher ground clearance, longer suspension travel, 19-inch front wheel, and all of that culminates together to give you a lot more confidence when you're pushing this motorcycle around trails. It's got enough power, you'd say, to step out the tail a little bit, so you can't really do a lot of power slides like on the bigger adventure tourers. So it's overall a much better package, and as you can see from the state of the bike behind me, I had a lot of fun.
But considering the price, the TRKs do the job of an adventure tourer quite well.
Well, with that, it's time for us to wrap up this week's episode of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through Facebook, through Twitter, and you can follow our latest updates on Instagram as well. You should subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We'll see you next week. Until then, goodbye and many thanks for watching.